Hello, my friend. I'm so glad you stopped by my channel. If you're here for the first time, don't forget to subscribe and share this video with your friends or family. It really helps my channel a lot. Please tell me in which city or country you watched this video. I value every one of your comments. So, let's get started. The first sign that something had changed came on a Tuesday, when she walked through the door glowing. Not her usual worn-out smile after hours of video calls or back-to-back meetings. This was something else. A bright, electric grin that didn't fit the slow, steady beat of our everyday life. I was in the kitchen, wrestling with a stubborn orange that sprayed juice down my fingers. The sting was sudden, sharp, and acidic. She swept in wearing that storm gray suit she always called her armor. The rhythmic tap of her heels on the tiles felt like a countdown. "Hey, hun," she said, kissing my cheek with a breeze of perfume. "You would not believe the day I've had." But I didn't ask. I'd already started to notice the difference in her. Let me back up. I'm Caleb Reeves, 49, been under car hoods since the day after high school graduation. I've clocked in sick, sunburned, even limping, but I never missed a shift. I rebuilt engines, replaced axles, flushed brake lines. All of it paid for in sweat, not loans. It wasn't flashy work, but it was real. So was she, Marla, my high school sweetheart. The girl who married me at 19 wearing sweatpants and a hoodie from her community college. She chased a business career while I punched the clock at the shop. She told me we were going to build an empire. I thought that meant a home full of love, kids, and the kind of peace where you don't flinch opening the mailbox. But Marla dreamed bigger. I picked up overtime to fuel her vision, paid her tuition, then her MBA, packed school lunches when she was buried in deadlines, drove her to interviews in a rusted-out Chevy that wheezed through the winters. I was exhausted but proud. Eventually, she landed a role at Argent Core Strategies, big firm, big perks, international trips. She took off like a rocket. I stayed grounded, boots on concrete, back aching, doing whatever I had to so we could keep the fridge full. We never moved. Same house for 27 years, same bed every night, same quiet mornings with shared coffee. I didn't think anything was wrong, until I saw that envelope. It wasn't even hidden. Just sitting there in her laptop bag when she asked me to grab her charger. I shouldn't have opened it. I know that. But the pharmacy name caught me. It wasn't one I recognized. Inside was a strip of 10 white tablets in a blister pack. The label read, "Take one immediately. Repeat in 12 hours if needed. Emergency use only." I felt the blood drain from my face. Because here's the thing. I had a vasectomy 12 years ago, right after our second kid. It was a mutual decision. No more children. So why was she carrying emergency contraception? I slid the envelope back in like I'd never seen it. Pretended. But that night, I didn't sleep. My brain refused to let it rest. That same week, she mentioned a trip, client presentation in Atlanta. She was flying out Wednesday, back Friday. Told me she'd be completely unavailable. No texts, no calls. Said the schedule would be brutal. But the prep didn't feel like stress. It felt calculated. She triple-checked outfits, spent too long on her makeup, packed a perfume bottle she hadn't touched in ages. And lingerie, the kind she hadn't worn since our 20s, found its way into the suitcase. I didn't say a word. Helped her close the zipper, kissed her goodbye, told her I believed in her. Then I got in my truck and followed her. Not to accuse. Not to catch her. I just needed the truth. The man who stood by her through sleepless baby nights, who cleaned up sick at 3 a.m., who sold the last thing he loved, his Harley, so she could finish school. That man deserved to know what she'd become. I drove the 250 miles to Atlanta, slept in my cab, ate vending machine dinners, watched from a distance. On the second evening, I saw them. She walked beside a tall man in a navy suit. His hand brushed the small of her back like it belonged there. They laughed, whispered. He kissed her shoulder like it was routine. She leaned into him like she'd done it 1,000 times. I didn't confront her. Not yet. Instead, while she was out, I let myself into her hotel room and took everything. Her laptop, USB drives, meeting prep, the file folders with charts and notes. Everything she needed for that pitch. And I left 2 things. A note. I know. And my wedding ring. The next morning, she called me. Her voice cracked. "Caleb, what did you do?" By then, I was already halfway home, maybe more, my truck humming beneath me like nothing had changed. I didn't answer right away. Just kept my eyes on the road, fingers locked around the steering wheel. "You took everything," she said, her voice ragged. "My laptop, the notes. Caleb, that pitch was everything." "It's gone," I said. "Just like us." She made a noise, a sob twisted up in disbelief. "You don't get it. It wasn't—" "Stop," I cut her off. "Don't make it worse, Ferris. Don't lie." Then the line went quiet. You were holding his hand. A heavy, suffocating silence hung between us before she finally said the last thing I ever expected to hear. It didn't mean anything. My grip on the steering wheel tightened until the color drained from my fingers. Those 4 words hit harder than any confession could, like being told, "Relax, it's nothing," right after getting stabbed in the chest. I ended the call without another word, blocked her number, threw the disposable phone out the window like it was contaminated. When I got home, I collected every item tied to her big conference and shoved it deep under the house. Her designer shoes, the USB with her deck, her custom folders, and glossy business cards. She was supposed to give a critical presentation at 9 a.m. the next day. By then, she was wandering the hallways of a Marriott in the same wrinkled dress from the night before, calling anyone who might help, frantically searching for materials that were long gone. She didn't just lose the account. Argent Corps fired her on the spot. No severance, no warning, lying to a major client and misplacing proprietary files. Doesn't matter how impressive your CV is, you're out. I thought I'd feel triumphant, but all I felt was silence. The rumors spread like wildfire. Whispers about her and Silas Carrington, the influential director of Midtown Urban Affairs, married and deeply embedded in city politics, echoed through every office. People talked about secret rendezvous, wine bottles left out, and late-night strategy meetings. His wife filed for divorce. His political allies quietly erased him from their future plans. And Marla? She disappeared. Her LinkedIn, gone. All her socials deleted. She missed Sophie's birthday. Ethan sent a long, heartfelt email that was never answered. No one heard from her again. A few weeks later, the house felt like a ghost shell. I came home one evening to find her half of the closet completely empty and a note stuck to the refrigerator. "I'm sorry." I didn't respond. I ended up renting out the upstairs to a quiet couple and moved into the guest suite behind the main house. Life settled into an eerie stillness. The only noises were the low hum of the fridge and the occasional clink of tools in the garage. Then came the moment that shattered everything. 5 years later. It was a Friday. I had just finished tuning up a '96 Mustang when I heard a knock on the garage door. 2 people stood outside, mid-40s, dressed like they belonged at a charity brunch, not in an oily auto shop. "Are you Caleb Reeves?" the man asked. "Depends," I replied. "Who's asking?" "My name is Dominic Ferris. This is my wife, Julia. 4 years ago, we adopted a little girl, Eliza." I looked at them, confused. "Congratulations," I said. He didn't smile. "She has leukemia," he said. "We're trying to find a bone marrow match." "I'm really sorry to hear that," I said sincerely. "But what's that got to do with me?" They exchanged a loaded glance. Julia stepped forward, holding out an envelope. "Your name is on her birth certificate," she said, barely above a whisper. I froze. "That's not possible." "She's Marla's child," Julia explained gently. "She placed her for adoption 6 months after your separation. The agency didn't have much info, just your name listed as the father." "I had a vasectomy more than 10 years ago," I replied flatly. "She's not mine." "But maybe you know who is," Julia said softly. And I did. How could I forget Silas Carrington? The smug, tailored politician who wined and dined my wife in hotel lounges with empty promises and expensive charm. The man who helped torch my entire life. I turned to face the Ferris. "I'll do whatever I can to help Eliza," I said calmly. "But you need to listen closely." They nodded. "His name is Silas Carrington. He has money, influence, and knows how to play dirty. But he's the biological father. And if he won't do the right thing, make him." Carrington's face was plastered all over the city, on billboards, campaign flyers, and buses. He'd traded his public sector role for a Senate bid. To the world, he was flawless. Trimmed beard, bespoke suits, and a polished smile. But I knew better. And now, so did the Ferris. They acted quickly, hired legal counsel, filed paternity paperwork using the birth certificate Marla had left behind. Carrington denied it all, threatened legal action. His lawyers flooded them with cease and desist letters padded with enough legal jargon and dollar signs to scare most people into silence. But the Ferris didn't flinch. Their daughter's life mattered more than Carrington's spotless image. I stayed out of it, let the storm build. Made a few anonymous calls, to a Philly journalist who once needed help with a dead car battery, to a nurse who recalled Marla behaving oddly during prenatal visits. Then one night, Julia called me. Her voice was shaky, full of disbelief. "He caved," she whispered. That was me. She gave the smallest nod. "Engines are the coolest," she said. "One day, I want to make one." The way Julia smiled said more than words ever could. From the moment she spotted that old, rust-covered motorcycle by the hospital entrance, her fascination with machines hadn't let up. Eliza got to her feet and made her way over. Her tiny hand wrapped around mine like it was the most natural thing in the world. "Want to see my fort?" she asked. I couldn't answer right away. My throat closed up. But eventually, I gave a quiet nod. We spent the whole afternoon together, talking about cartoons, jelly bean flavors, and how she thought clouds were just pieces of sky cotton drifting by. I didn't bring up her mom. I didn't say a word about Silas. But right before I left, she did. "My mommy's not coming back, is she?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I crouched down beside her. "No," I said softly. "She's not. Do you miss her?" That question hit like a hammer. "Yeah," I whispered back. She tilted her head, eyes steady, voice calm. "I think she misses you too, wherever she is." That nearly broke me. Kids don't mean to cut deep, but sometimes they find the softest spot without even trying. After that day, I started visiting every few weeks. We built tiny cars from kits. I taught her how to change the oil on an old push mower, and slowly, the resentment I'd carried started to loosen its grip. Silas Carrington had faded from public view. Last I'd heard, he was holed up in Vermont, trying to reinvent himself as some kind of consultant. I stopped thinking about him. He no longer haunted my thoughts. I ended up selling Marla Sloan to a young couple just getting their start. I gave them a fair price, told them to fill the place with joy, and never waste a moment on bitterness. Rachel and I stayed close, but nothing more. Some people aren't meant to walk the whole road with you, just a stretch. That's enough. One evening, as I sat at Sophie's kitchen table with her sons tumbling over me, she asked, "Do you ever wish you'd signed the papers?" I looked at my hands for a while. "Not anymore," I said. "I used to think closure came in a document. Turns out it's just surviving and choosing to keep going." About a month later, I was locking up the garage when a sleek black car pulled into the lot. Dominic got out, his eyes alive with light. "She's officially in remission," he said, beaming. "Doctors say the transplant worked." I smiled, genuinely. But there was more. "She wants to call you Grandpa." The first time Eliza actually said it, I had to excuse myself to the bathroom. I didn't want her to see me cry. It was a Tuesday, warm and full of sunlight, the kind of day you never expect to remember forever. But I always will. She was on the porch, coloring with her legs swinging, her hair a messy knot. I handed her a glass of lemonade. She looked up, smiling softly. "Thanks, Grandpa." Just like that. Like it had always been true. In that single moment, all the broken parts of me, the losses, the joy, the sorrow, finally settled into place. I never remarried. I never left my little two-bedroom house, but I began to live again. We visited science exhibits. We built a go-kart from scratch. She painted flames on it, though they looked more like spaghetti noodles. I taught her how engines breathe, how gears spin together like dancers in rhythm. She told her teachers I fixed broken things, and maybe that's all I was ever good at, not just engines. People too. One evening, long after everything had changed, Sophie handed me a box she'd found tucked away in storage. "It says for Mom on the label," she said, "but I think she meant it for you." I opened it alone. Inside were dozens of old photos, frozen pieces of a life I'd nearly let slip away. Us at the beach, me holding baby Sophie, Marla dozing on the couch with our boy asleep on her chest. At the very bottom, a crumpled napkin. Her handwriting read, "We'll build an empire together." There was a flash drive too. When I plugged it in, a video played. She must have recorded it just after everything came apart, before I knew the truth. She looked exhausted, but honest. "If you're seeing this and I'm not around," she began, "I want you to know. I remember everything. The terrible coffee, the road trips, that time you fixed my radio so I could fall asleep to Sinatra. You gave up your dreams for mine. That sacrifice, that love, it's what everything I ever built was standing on. I know I broke it. I did. But you were always my home, Caleb, even when I didn't deserve you." I sat in the dark for a long time after that. The pain had faded, but its echo still lingered. Eliza grew up into a force of nature, bright, inquisitive. She built her own computer before she turned 12, got straight A's. At her high school graduation, I stood in the front row, my chest tight as she gave her valedictorian speech. She didn't say my name. She didn't need to. Sometimes the people who save us aren't the ones who brought us into the world. They're the ones who stay, the ones who show up again and again, with their toolbox in one hand and quiet wisdom in the other. I'm 63 now, still fixing engines, still sipping black coffee on my porch every morning. Eliza visits often. She's in college, studying mechanical engineering. She wants to build prosthetics for kids whose families can't afford them. She says I'm her role model. But the truth? I'm just a man who was broken once. And instead of staying broken, I rebuilt. That's how a forgotten mechanic, betrayed and left behind, found his way back. Not through revenge, not through rage, but through the love of a little girl who was never supposed to exist, and somehow became the one who brought me home. This story has come to an end. What's your opinion? Share it in the comments, my friend. And if you like this story, check out other exciting videos on my channel. I'll say goodbye until the next video. See you.